Today's podcast is brought to you by AlleyRepair.com. Don't leave your skee ball machines lying around collecting dust in the basement. Let AlleyRepair.com bring those machines back to life. High quality workmanship for your skee ball playing needs. Contact AlleyRepair.com today. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Fro Life Wrestling Podcast. In this episode, I'm just going to be straight up honest with you to begin with. This is a crazy, all over the place episode. There's so much stuff to get to, so I'm just going to get started right away, starting with Brock Lesnar and Kevin Owens. Madison Square Garden, March 13th, is going to see the first official meeting between Brock Lesnar and Kevin Owens. And I can't tell you how much the general population of wrestling fans would love to see this match. It sounds like it's going to be something very exciting. Obviously, I mean, the match is going to be for the Universal Championship. I don't see any kind of title change happening, obviously, unless they don't put the spin. You know how we've been talking the last couple episodes about how Goldberg is supposed to pick up the championship at Fastlane and then defend against Brock at Mania. If they don't pull that off, then potentially you could see Brock take the title at the Madison Square Garden event. I don't think that's going to happen, but it still makes for an amazing match. And after what happened this past week on Raw between Owens and Braun Strowman, this could be a huge, huge match. This could really establish Kevin Owens as a brawler and a technical wrestler all at the same time. Brock does both. Brock is a beast in more than one way. He's not just raw power. The guy's actually got some skill. I know he doesn't showcase a lot of that. It's a lot of suplexes and punching, and that's most of his repertoire lately. But if anybody who's been a fan of Brock Lesnar since he first came to World Wrestling Entertainment way back at the beginning, when he was a young buck, the guy had a whole array of moves that he used to put on pretty consistently that we don't get to see very often. This is a kind of match that really offers the opportunity to see some of that old-fashioned Brock Lesnar wrestling, and I'm hoping that they really let it go, since it's not going to be on television or anything like that. It's essentially a large house show. I hope they really let them just put it all out there and have just a high-quality, amazing match. I'm going to move on right away to something that's a major, major story this week. Seth Rollins' huge issue. He's got this torn MCL knee injury. It occurred during the attack by Samoa Joe. A lot of people at first thought this was complete nonsense. It wasn't a real injury. Unfortunately for Seth Rollins, it is. This is the same knee that he had the issue with before that kept him out for like 9 months. This one here, they're saying right now that it's only going to take 8 weeks. Now, to me, that sounds like an optimistic assessment of the situation. I expect him to miss more than that, but hopefully if he does the 8-week return, that would still line him up with being able to participate at WrestleMania. However, the other thing that happened because of this, the other result of this, is WWE held a meeting the other day to discuss the plans for what are we going to do now that Seth Rollins could potentially be out for the biggest show of the year, and what are we going to do with Triple H? You know, some people floated the idea of possibly having Triple H have an angle where he goes against Samoa Joe, since he's the bulldozer who came in and took out Seth Rollins. Joe's been messing with Rollins online and tweeting and all that, so Joe's clearly established himself as a bad guy, but I guess in some strange way you could spin that and make it so Triple H and Joe could get in the ring together. It's a match I don't think any of us ever thought we'd see, and certainly didn't have any kind of lead up to WrestleMania season seeing that coming, but we'll see. I've also heard that the Cena Samoa Joe match may be back on because of this injury situation. You know, right now, before the injury, according to F4W Online, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, it's like linked to the Wrestling Observer, the whole plan was John Cena and Nikki Bella to go against The Miz and Maurice. Or, you know, that, I don't know. I'm not enthused about that match at all. Apparently, Nikki Bella is preparing to leave the wrestling world because of her neck injury anyways. You know, I guess that's one way to give her a super high-profile match with the man she's with. You know, that's cool, I suppose. But the way John Cena sells merchandise and the way that he's been the face of the company for over 10 years, you would expect to see him in a higher-profile match than with The Miz and Maurice. Whatever, that's WWE's call. Wrestling Observer newsletter is also putting out that WWE is looking to host an Asian tournament, much in the way that they held the UK tournament, which would be huge. There's also talk of them potentially even later having one in Mexico. The difference being this time, coming out of that United Kingdom tournament, one of the issues was the contracts with the wrestlers, and some of the wrestlers were under the impression they could wrestle for other promotions. Some of the other promoters were under the impression that those stars could appear on their television programs, only to find out that WWE was going to block their appearances if they did that, and instead some of the best talents in the United Kingdom have been relegated to doing dark matches and non-televised shows instead of being able to be in the spotlight, which is what established them as stars to begin with. So, you know, this would be different. In the Asian tournament and the Mexican tournament, they're looking for exclusive contracts for talent. That way they can appear on the tournament and then build a brand in those different regions. I'm happy with WWE expanding like this because let's face it, most of the mainstream people here in the United States, we don't pay the average fan doesn't pay a ton of attention to what's going on in Mexico or in Asia when it comes to their pro wrestling. I do because I'm a stone cold junkie when it comes to professional wrestling. But at the end of the day, the average fly-by-night fan doesn't do that. So they're missing out on they can grow their viewership base if they focus their energies elsewhere and still give us the product that we're used to. You know, it can only be good for WWE stockholders. I happen to be one of them. I'm very happy if they expand. You know, more expansion means more money, means my stock goes up. So more power to them. It's just random tidbits here. I'm moving on to something that has nothing to do with anything we talked about. I'm moving into kind of like a Lucha Underground TNA thing, but it was announced that at WrestleMania 33 weekend at WrestleCon that Bobby Lashley will be appearing in a match going against a man by the name of Jeff Cobb. Now, if you don't know who Jeff Cobb is, if you are a Lucha Underground fan, he portrays the character of Matanza Cueto, the big beast monster who took the Lucha Underground Championship last year, and really a beast, a beefy guy. And it's kind of awkward when you see the picture of the fight being promoted because I'm used to seeing Matanza Cueto on Lucha Underground. I'm not used to seeing this average Joe, typical dude. It just looks different when he's out there as Jeff Cobb. So for those people who don't know who Jeff Cobb is, he's going to be facing Bobby Lashley in what should be a real powerhouse matchup during WrestleMania weekend. There's some other things coming that weekend as well. I'll get to those a little bit later. I'm going to move on to Finn Balor. Apparently that medical exam he had right before the Royal Rumble revealed that he was not cleared to come back to the ring. And that's you know, when he first got hurt, they said it was going to be 4 to 6 months to begin with. So him not being cleared yet is fine. It's only been 5 months. It's looking now like WrestleMania is the realistic target for him to come back. I hope they bring him back as quick as possible because with Seth Rollins going down, if he can't compete, you're going to need a major star to step in right there. And potentially, if it was me, I think that makes more of a compelling story as Finn Balor coming in to support Seth since they both went out to injury and Balor at the hands of Seth, and have him step in to face Triple H. It makes for an opportunity for a future match between Finn Balor and Seth Rollins again. So that's the direction I would go. I got to give kudos for anybody who knows me in my private life. I'm big on psychology. I'm big on education and things like that. And when I see something about the psychological world in the news, especially when it's related to wrestling, I find that to be fascinating. AJ Lee announced in her book that when she was younger, she was diagnosed as being bipolar, which I find fascinating because that's a lot of what her character was like in World Wrestling Entertainment. Now, unless they knew that about her, they pegged her character right on because that's not something you just come up with. So, you know, kudos to her for being big enough to come out and put that out in the public so people can know about the different things that she went through and her hardships dealing with such a serious situation. Moving along again, I said that we would get to something else. WrestleMania Sunday, the Hardy Boys are going to host Broken Tailgate. This is an event that they're going to be holding from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's going to be photo ops with various wrestlers. You get a barbecue meal included with your ticket. There are shows going to be put on by American Combat Wrestling and Full Impact Pro Wrestling. There's some of the talent that's going to be there already. They announced, obviously, the Hardys will be there. Sami Callihan will be there. Jason Cade, AR Fox. The admission is $30, but if you drop $40, you get ringside seats. And there are some special photo appearance opportunities. You can go with either Jeff or Matt Hardy, $40 a picture. Or if you drop $99, you can get a picture with the whole Hardy clan. Rebby Sky and the baby, the whole 9 yards. So if you're in the area for WrestleMania weekend, might be a really cool way to kick off WrestleMania day. Go there from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., transition over to the stadium and go see the big show. So just had to throw that out there because I find that to be thoroughly amazing and frustrating at the same time, because that indicates to me that the Hardys will not be on the WrestleMania card, or at least that's not the plan right now, which also means that when their contract runs out at the end of this month, that even if WWE signs them, there would have to be some serious shifting to make a WrestleMania match work if this Hardys thing sells a bunch of tickets. In relation to WrestleMania, WWE now, according to WrestleZone.com, is contacting former female talents for something that they're going to do at WrestleMania. There's a plethora of talents that they could be contacting. I didn't see any of their names listed. It wasn't just WrestleZone, eWrestling News, Cage Side Seats. They're all reporting the same story, and the reality is nobody's saying any names. But you could, I mean, there's the fans in us can fantasy book this to death. There's so many. Trish Stratus could be coming back. Somebody like a Molly Holly or a Victoria, or somebody who still obviously has the look that they're looking for, the athleticism, and can contribute to some kind of special match at Mania would be cool. I really don't need to redo that battle royal they had a few years ago with Sunny and all those people. That was horrible, but clearly they're trying to put something special together. On the topic of women's wrestling, NXT is holding some tryouts, and Lady Tappa is actually trying out with NXT, and I've actually thought for a while now that I thought she was actually pretty good in TNA. And I've been waiting for WWE to give her an opportunity because, let's face it, they need to break that stereotype, especially like after the MTV personality the other week was making fun of, WWE women wrestlers for being strippers and Barbie dolls or whatever. You need more of the larger women who can really be an imposing force. Somebody's got to go against Nia Jax, somebody like Awesome Kong, those kinds of people. So she's one of those really buff, bigger women who can pull that off. So I actually hope that she gets an opportunity with WWE. Kevin Nash is in the news. He's having surgery number 31. I have only had a couple surgeries in my whole lifetime, and I don't want to go through another one. This is going to be surgery number 31 for Kevin Nash after he tore a rotator cuff, his labrum, and a bicep, which I can't imagine hurting any one of those things, much less the three of them. But when he made the announcement, he took a photo of himself working out on the bones, bone to bone, as he's working out with the injury, which just blows my mind. It just tells you how tough some of these people are. The next segment here I want to get to is a little bit out of the norm for what I typically do, but there's been some really cool wrestling stuff going on in Europe. Germany is not normally known to be a hotbed for wrestling, but it's kind of exploding there. There's a German company called West Side Extreme Wrestling, WXW. They have a killer show they put on about a week ago. They had the WXW Unified Championship between a guy named Axel Dieter and Marty Scurll, who's a very popular UK wrestler. Dieter retaining his championship, and then he gets jumped they crowned a new number one contender that night, this guy named Jern Simmons, and he comes out and attacks the champion. So they're doing storylines just like you would see on the big shows, but these are guys who are like really fighting to make a name for themselves to ever have a chance to get to a WWE. And sometimes those are the talents who really put on a show that we can't see anywhere else. Progress Wrestling in the United Kingdom, they have some of the WWE UK talents. They had a show they did called Tropic Thunder Bastard. I don't know where they come up with these wonderful names, but they had the Progress Champion, which is Pete Dunne, who was in the WWE tournament, and his buddy in that promotion is Trent Seven. They make up the British Strong Style stable, and they have their match. They jump this guy Jimmy Havoc, and then if you're a Progress Wrestling fan, Mark Haskins and Flash Morgan Webster are two huge names that have been out with injury. They have these two guys return together to save Jimmy Havoc from being jumped by Trent Seven and by Pete Dunne. Really cool storyline. They also have promised that the WWE United Kingdom champion Tyler Bate will be at their next show, which is very cool. And speaking of Tyler Bate, he's at the NXT TV tapings, which is something, the next topic we want to get into. Coming out of the tapings, I'm not going to go through every match. They taped like 3-4 weeks worth of shows, but I'll tell you, there were some really cool moments coming out of the taping. First off, the Revival. The Revival coming out and challenging the Authors of Pain for NXT TakeOver Orlando. They try to get involved and interject himself in that feud, but DIY gets a rematch. So throughout the taping, when DIY gets the rematch, the Revival are going to cost them their opportunity. And makes for an interesting situation heading into the next NXT TakeOver event. Do you book the Authors of Pain versus DIY again? Do you put them against the Revival? Or do you make it a three-way dance between all three teams and try to showcase all their talents? Something that I don't see very often in NXT. It's usually straight up one-on-one matches or tag team matches. Throwing a three-way dance out there, at least for the tag team championship, would be very cool. They do plenty of the three-way, four-way stuff in singles, but in the tag teams, you don't see as much of that in NXT, so that'd be kind of cool. The taping saw Eric Young really trying to woo Ty Dillinger into the Sanity group, which Tyler Dillinger insists he's not going to join. So that'll be interesting to see where that storyline goes. I could almost see them flipping him and bringing him into Sanity at some point, giving into the temptation to join Sanity. Or it could lead to him bringing in somebody else, another talent, to align with, since he lost at NXT TakeOver in San Antonio because of the numbers game. So again, cool storylines coming out of NXT for a company, or for a part of the company in WWE that Triple H says he's not happy with. I don't know how you feel that way when you got some of these crazy storylines they're putting together. Bobby Roode, his next feud is clear. I don't know why Shinsuke Nakamura had virtually no appearance on the show, and then he wasn't at the Rumble either. But Roode's next feud is clear. Cassius Ohno has come out and he wants to challenge Bobby Roode. I'm going to tell you I have a problem with this, and here's the problem. Bobby Roode debuts with NXT last year. He comes out, he has to go through several matches, several feuds, go through Ty Dillinger, all that stuff before he builds up to a match with Shinsuke Nakamura. Okay? NXT seems to have a pattern of behavior that drives me nuts. Cassius Ohno has been gone. He comes in, Chris Hero comes in, and he's just going to challenge for the championship. But what about all the guys who've been in NXT for the last year? Why aren't they getting a championship? When Nakamura came in, it took, one match before he was in line to get a championship match? It's too fast. I get it, you've got established stars coming from different promotions around the world, and when you sign them, you want to push the snot out of them. But Bobby Roode did it more organically. They created the glorious character, and they built it over the last 6 months, and then he earned a championship shot, and it makes his win mean something. You know, I don't like seeing people come back and then they just immediately jump into the world title picture. It's a knock on the rest of the roster that the WWE is saying, hey, Cassius Ohno is better than everybody else on the roster, so we're going to give him a title shot right away. I don't like that. I said earlier, Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate actually defended his UK championship against Trent Seven at the tapings, which is very cool. We were kind of wondering what they were going to do with that championship, but I don't understand if you're creating a UK title while you're defending it in the United States. Put a show on over there or something, but make it relevant to the United Kingdom. This is like having the European Championship all over again. It got defended here more than it did over there, and makes the labeling of the championship relatively pointless. In addition, they brought Pete Dunne over for a match. He faced Mark Andrews. He defeated Mark Andrews. Those two, I mean, I'm glad to see those four competitors, Bates, Seven, Dunne, and Andrews, getting some screen time, because I think that means they're going to build their characters, and hopefully we'll see them on 205 Live at some point, because I think the four of them could really help that division, since they're having trouble with the ratings anyways. But just glad to see them at all. You know, that UK tournament was just a sampling of what they can do, and now hopefully we're going to get to see more of that. Going to move on to the big deal of the week for Lucha Underground, signing on with Netflix. I know a lot of people were a little concerned that meant they were going to be leaving the El Rey network. That is not the case. This is just like a lot of other programs. You know, you film season 1, season 2, season 3. Those are all in the bag. Well, now what does Lucha Underground do with that tape library? El Rey is not going to show reruns of their show, because it makes it so that the viewership has a tough time following the storyline with the live shows, or the newer shows that they put on for the new season. So they have to be able to distribute their content somewhere, and using Netflix is perfect. There's millions of subscribers to Netflix. People can get acquainted to Lucha Underground who haven't watched it before, and as they go through that, just like watching a TV show you've never seen, catch them back up on the episodes through Netflix. Same thing with the El Rey network, signing this deal with Lucha Underground to go to Netflix. You can get people who'll be interested in the product, and because they spread out their shows so much in their seasons, you really have an opportunity to capitalize on some outside of the box wrestling fans, and then bring them to your program so they'll be there for the next set of series episodes. So congratulations to Lucha Underground on that, and they need something positive, because their other news coming out of Lucha Underground is, 1, Rey Mysterio's contract is up, and 2, which I think is even more important, though they might not think so, is Ricochet's contract is up. And he was out this week, various outlets again reporting, including, you know, Wrestling Observer and WrestleZone.com, reporting that he wants the New Japan Pro Wrestling Junior Heavyweight Junior Championship, and that's a huge goal of his. But he does want to go to WWE. He doesn't know if he's ready for it right now, but when he gets there, he does not want to necessarily be a part of the Cruiserweight division. Not that he wouldn't do it if they asked him to, but he made it clear he wants to go the route. I think the quote was he wants to take the same route as Finn Balor and Kevin Owens, and he wants to go for the NXT title. That sounds like that means a lot to him. So it'll be curious to see how that works out. With their 2 contracts expiring, Mysterio and Ricochet, El Rey has to figure out what they're going to do for their next series of tapings, because their talent, they're all experiencing some strange situation. Pentagon Jr. is another one. Pentagon Jr. has left AAA, and he's been in AAA for a very long time. He wrestles as Pentagon Dark in Lucha Underground. He left AAA just like in the last several months, Sexy Star left AAA, and Phoenix. You know, AAA is losing a ton of talent. It's not a big impact on us because it's not really in our market. But to Lucha Underground, the impact it could potentially have there, that's something to keep an eye on. Pentagon Dark and Phoenix have actually been teaming up. They call themselves the Lucha Brothers. Their new names are Phoenix El Rey and Penta El Cero Miedo, which I don't speak Spanish. I really don't. I've tried. I can't do it. But together, they have they've already established themselves as a decent tag team. They've had matches earlier this year with Chris Hero and Tommy End. Chris Hero, who's now Cassius Ohno, and Tommy End, who, if you watch the UK tournament, is a huge British wrestler who went against Neville on that show. And they've also faced the Young Bucks. So, cool tag team opportunity for them. And now that they're free of their AAA deals, and I don't know what their status is with Lucha Underground, but Lucha Underground has a problem. They don't tape again until November. Their talents need to make money, and if you're not giving your talents the opportunity to promote themselves and give themselves an income, they're going to look elsewhere, and that's the concern I have for Lucha Underground. I love the product. I love the show. Every time I watch it, I'm intrigued. It's not like World Wrestling Entertainment or TNA or Ring of Honor. It's like watching a live action comic book, but at the end of the day, it's a cool program, and if they don't foster their talent and treat their talent a certain way, they're going to lose their talent, and that could be a problem because I really like the future of Lucha Underground should they do things the right way. Kudos go out to Mark Middleton of Pro Wrestling Insider with a story about Ted DiBiase Jr. I don't know when the story was originally published, but I came across it yesterday. Ted DiBiase Jr. returned to the ring back on December 3rd for Pro Wrestling Ego, who held an event. It was a fundraiser for the law enforcement agencies in their area. And it was funny because if you go on YouTube, you can find the video of him wrestling. It's a tag team match. He's literally in street clothes, and he has a walking boot on. It looks like he's got like a blown Achilles or something. He's out there with this big old walking boot, and he's still jumping off ropes and doing moves. Clearly has a limp, but to see him in the ring was kind of cool. I always thought WWE missed the boat with him. They really could have done something with him, and instead they kind of flopped his career, and now he's not even in wrestling pretty much at all. That's all the time we have for this episode. Before we go, though, I want to throw a shout out to some important people. I've been saying the last couple episodes that I pay very close attention to the people who listen to the podcast, and there are certain people who do something that is very helpful for me. When you listen to these podcast episodes, and if you like what you're hearing, do me a favor, and I'm asking this for my loyal listeners, please comment. And, when you comment, it actually gives us the opportunity to move the show up in the ratings on iTunes and other services. And those comments, they're critical, especially with our viewership size. We're looking to really reach as many people as we can. And right now, we've got a very small nuclear audience that's amazing, and we're building and we're getting stronger every day. But if you can, please spread the word, and I want to throw out a special shout out to a few people. First off, Custom Titantrons 101 is the tag name on YouTube. I look at YouTube first, especially for comments and things like that. Custom Titantrons 101 is amazing. On every episode, they communicate with me regularly, and great kid, and I wouldn't trade him for the world. Best Vine, constantly commenting. React Gaming, WWE Creative Club, Pro Wrestling News. Over on Stitcher, Jennifer Gibson and Dope Status. Like, these people, I appreciate that they come back for every episode, and it really means the world to a new podcaster like myself that you've got consistent, loyal followers. So all those people I just mentioned, I can't even tell you how much I appreciate that you tune in every episode. And by all means, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it wherever you'd like. Copy the links or whatever you got to do. It all helps me and gives me more fuel for the fire to try to keep these episodes going as long as possible to bring you guys as much entertainment as possible. So if I haven't said it enough already, thank you, all the listeners out there, for everything you do. I really appreciate it. Special thanks go out, as always, to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. I couldn't do this podcast without you guys. You provide all the music and sound effects we use in every show. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy with sketchy people. Show your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games and bring some fun and excitement back to family game night. Go to www.thegamecrafter.com/sketchypeople to pick up your copy today. And I gotta tell you, I picked up a copy. It is very cool. It's kind of like like Pictionary with a little chutes and ladders mixed in. I have 3 children, and it's a blast. So check it out. Sketchy People at thegamecrafter.com. To U.S. News and World Report Best Colleges 2017, it's available right now at Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. If you are somebody who's looking to go to college, it is a elite resource for helping you narrow down this selection. If you ever get a chance, tune into one of my education podcasts if you want to hear more about those opportunities. To AlleyRepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade needs. We want to thank you for listening to today's podcast, and we encourage you to go to our website at www.frolifeplanning.com to learn more about what Mr. Fro can do for you. It's all about higher education with Fro Life Planning. Remember, Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. We look forward to discussing more of these current events. We're always on top of the rumors. We try to pull in everything we can to make these shows as exciting as we can for everybody. So we hope you tune in next time. So long, everybody.